Okay, my YouTube people, this is a video on a 3-hole service on a 2003 Road King Classic. Please, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's the least you could do for all this free information you're getting. I'm not going to make you stick around for the whole video if the only thing you need is the amounts and how to check them. Just so if you're in a hurry, it takes 4 quarts of motor oil with a filter. It takes 20 to 24 ounces of transmission fluid. And it takes 32 ounces of primary fluid. I use nothing but Mobil 1 products on this bike. I use the 2050 full synthetic Mobil 1 in the crankcase for the engine. I use the 80W90 full synthetic Mobil 1 for the transmission. For the primary, I use the 1040 synthetic motorcycle oil. It doesn't have the friction modifiers in it that cause the clutches to slip. So stick around and watch how I go about doing it. The proper way to check the engine motor oil is you can have it cold or warm. If it's cold, you want it in between the low and the high mark right here. If it's hot, you want it at the high mark. The proper way to check this is the bike has to be on the kickstand. You dip it down in and push it in. You pull it out, you check it. Right now it's cold, and it's right here, halfway in between. This is good to go. To check the transmission, you make the bike level, you unscrew the dipstick and clean it off, and then you just set the dipstick in at the threads and pull it back out while it's level, and that checks it. You do not screw that dipstick in to check the level. I have 47,674 miles on my 2003 Road King, and I'm going to do a 3-hole oil change and wanted to show you the proper way to do it. Okay, first things first is changing the oil, and to drain the oil is this plug. It's on the left hand side and it faces the front of the bike. Now you can see I put a couple grind marks in it because when I originally got this bike I was a little confused, so I put some grind marks in it like you see, and that ended my confusion going forward. I always remember that I put the grind marks in the oil drain plug. Right over from that, on the right hand side of the bike and facing upward, is the transmission drain plug. They're both the same size plug. They both have a magnet on the end of them and they're interchangeable. So now you can see why it is I put the grind marks in it. When the bike's on the kickstand, you can drain the engine fine. It's leaning that direction. But when you're draining the transmission, you have to rock the bike over to the right side to get it emptied out. To drain the primary, it's that 1/8 inch NPT with the Torx in it. When you're on the kickstand, it'll drain just fine. I use either the RevTech or the Custom Chrome's oil filter because they both have magnets in it. Now when you get the Custom Chrome oil filter, you have to get the chrome filter, not the black filter, in order to get the magnet. I have no idea why they do that, but I generally don't like chrome oil filters, but the magnet's worth it. Part number from RevTech is 35074, and internally the magnet's right there. The filter's down to 10 microns, and that's a pretty good filter. Thankfully, I looked in my old filter and there was no metal on the magnet. Now I've already drained all 3 holes, and now I'm going to show you how to fill them and how to check them properly. One of the things I always do before I start is I take a little brake clean and clean out my funnel. And then I make sure to wipe it out real good. You always want to take the clean rag and wipe off the area to make sure you don't get any dirt down into the fill hole. When you have a fresh filter on, this takes 4 quarts of oil. Since I have the fresh filter, it'll be 4 quarts. Now on this bike, I use nothing but the Mobil 1 V-Twin 2050 full synthetic. I worked for Mobil 1 in their lubricant research division, and let me tell you, this stuff's the best. Not only did we test our own oils, we tested everybody's oils. And by far, Mobil 1's the best. Now on my old bikes, I run straight 60 weight. Next thing I'm going to do is fill the transmission. And on the transmissions on all my bikes, regardless of the year, I only use full synthetic Mobil 1 7590 gear oil. If you haven't tried this, you're missing out. You put this in your bike, you'll know how good it is right away, and you'll never deviate from using this. Remove the dipstick. I cleaned out my funnel already. This bike takes 20 to 24 ounces, and this is 12 ounces right here. Here's another 12. The proper way to check the level in the transmission is to have the bike level and then you dip the stick in. You only dip it to the top thread. You do not screw this in at all. That looks like this. You can see it's right at the full mark. You want to check your O-ring real good and then put your dipstick back in. With filling the primary, I have to take the floorboard off and then these 5 Torx screws. Also, while I'm filling the oil, I like to open the inspection cover and check the adjustment on my primary chain. For my primary, I use Mobil 1 1040 full synthetic, and this Racing 4T is safe for your clutches. They won't slip. So this is what I've always used in here and been successful. I always recommend while you're here to check your primary chain for the proper adjustment. I'm going to do that while I'm here. Per the manual, my primary takes 32 ounces, which is this full quart. So I'm just going to pour the whole thing in. First, before I do that, I'm going to check the adjustment in my primary chain. Alright, I get myself a funnel. Of course, I already cleaned it out. Now I'm just going to pour it in, the whole quart. Now I just wipe off the gasket surface. For the inspection cover, they tell you to get a new gasket. I'm going to reuse the old one because I don't have one here. I wasn't planning on doing this. I'm also going to wipe the derby cover off. This has an O-ring. It wasn't leaking, so I'm just going to reuse the O-ring. Now I got the cover and the gasket good and clean. I just put one of the upper screws in and just start it with my fingers. And then I put the rest of them in. I believe these get torqued to 11 to 14 foot-pounds. Just take and wipe off the derby cover O-ring. Take a second and wipe the inside of the derby cover off. So now you just set the O-ring inside the groove that's here. Like that. Generally they'll stay. With this, I hold it on tight and then just snug 2 of them up before I put the rest of them in. That way that O-ring doesn't pop out of the groove. So there you have it, the full 3-hole service on a 2003 Road King Classic. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. It's the least you could do for all this free information. Thanks for watching.